Hey everybody, PJTheBelt. As most of you all know at this point, there's a boycott going on in Canada against the United States. Everything from travel to grocery to people booing the American national anthem. Whole lot of disrespect. You got grandmas at the grocery store paying 20 to 30% more for produce because they won't pick up the American strawberries that are 20 to 30% cheaper than the Canadian ones. And they're doing that to somehow show Donald Trump that not to mess with Canada, not to tariff us, so we'll just pay more for it. So there's a whole lot of that going on out here. People are being misled, to say the least. They're being gaslit. They're being manipulated by the media. I don't understand what that is, but Canadians seem to be some of the most easily manipulated people, and the media's got their number. They know what to do. They know what buttons to touch and press to get them to do what they want and follow the agenda. Something that recently came out, though, in an article that honestly isn't really surprising, but did make me feel more proud to be an Albertan, is the fact that Alberta is the province that is buying that stuff the least. Alberta is not buying the BS. Alberta is not buying into the whole elbows up stuff and boycotting the United States. It's not surprising to me. I know that most Albertans have common sense. We understand that the United States is our closest ally, friend, and pretty much family. We also understand that literally they're our closest trading partner. We trade more with Montana, Idaho, Texas than we trade with Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba. All right, let's dive in. Very quickly though, if you enjoy these videos, please do me a solid and subscribe. It's free and you can always unsubscribe later if you change your mind. Thank you, and back to the video.
We're not going to America. We're not spending our money there. It's Canada first, baby.
On social media, Canadians are loud and proud about boycotting trips to the U.S.
And then you have the one province. Americans rejoice as numbers prove one Canadian province is refusing to boycott the United States. Guess the province.
I just canceled it.
Canceled a 2-week vacation, including flights, accommodations, and Disney World tickets. Thanks to insurance, she got most of her money back, but she lost about $1,300 US and says she has no regrets.
As Canadians, that we need to stick together and as unity, and I raise my children to feel the same, be proud Canadian.
That's incredible. She loses $1,300 in this economy with how difficult things are and how expensive everything is nowadays. She cancels a 2-week vacation that she had pre-booked. Her kids were probably all excited. We're going to see Mickey Mouse and we're going to see Donald Duck and all that. And she just canceled it. And she lost $1,300. I want to see the husband. Why didn't they interview the husband? I want to see that dude. I got to see his face. He's got some explaining to do. His wife is canceling a trip here over her feelings being hurt. She loses $1,300. Kid's vacation is ruined. And she thinks she's making a difference. She thinks Donald Trump is somehow going to feel that. She's going to show Donald Trump. Man, I tell you.
Long been a popular destination. According to the U.S. Travel Association, visitors from Canada topped the list last year with more than 20 million visits. It warns that just a 10% dip in these trips could mean a loss of $2.1 billion. WestJet has already seen a 25% drop for U.S. travel since Donald Trump's tariff threat.
And we're about 40% less over last year, 40% less bookings to the U.S. for leisure travel.
He says customers are also questioning flying with U.S. airlines at all. That's true of this Canadian couple, now selling their property in California.
When we go down there to finalize the sale, we'll be flying out of Toronto on a Canadian airline. It's not necessarily cheaper for us, but I'm intentionally avoiding anything I can that's going to put money in the pockets of that system, I guess.
So this guy is choosing to fly with Canadian Airlines, which are notorious for being a lot more expensive oftentimes more expensive than the American ones. He's selling his house in California all because of his Trump derangement syndrome. These people are insane. These people are insane. Like, imagine selling a house over the fact that you don't like the president of the country where that house is. It's not like he's targeting you specifically or doing something to you personally, but just that you don't like him. You know, you have the Trump derangement syndrome is so strong that you know what, I'm gonna sell the house and we're just gonna and we're gonna pay more for tickets. Like, Canadians are the most easily manipulated people on earth. And there's the list. There's the infamous list of most manipulated, most gaslit Canadian provinces. Why am I not surprised that Quebec is at the top? Why am I not surprised that Quebec is number one at boycotting the United States because they don't like Trump? 27%, 26.9, pretty much 27% of people from Quebec are boycotting the United States. That is 3 people out of every 10. And you have Ontario at 22. Not surprised either. I figured it was going to be Ontario or Quebec, and I knew I was willing to put money that it was going to be Quebec. Those bleeding hearts, it's just they can't help themselves, those Frenchies. And then Ontario, of course. You got Ottawa, Toronto, leftists. It's all a bunch of socialist commies. And you got British Columbia in the west, of course. Vancouver, Lower Mainland. Bunch of communists down there too. So then it says here, on the other hand, certain Western Canadian provinces, obviously excluding British Columbia, which doesn't really count. Well, I take that back. Northern British Columbia is okay. They have common sense up there. But the Lower Mainland, Vancouver, and all that area, Victoria, all that stuff, is just terrible. Just literally terrible. Western Canadian provinces are exhibiting different signs. Saskatchewan decreased travel by only 6%. That's pretty high for Saskatchewan. You know, Saskatchewan's pretty close to Alberta. While Manitoba saw a dip of 3.8. Surprise. That's surprising. That bit is surprising. The fact that Manitoba was less manipulated into boycotting the United States than Saskatchewan was. That bit right there is surprising. Perhaps the most interesting of all is Alberta's reaction. The boycott hasn't had a significant impact on Albertans compared to Ontario and Quebec, with a dip of only 2.6%. A remarkable stat compared to other provinces. Literally a tenth. Out of 100, 2 people, 2.5 people in Alberta are willing to boycott the United States. You take 100 people and barely 3 people. The other 97 are like, no, why would we do that? Why would we boycott the United States? They're our closest ally. We got no issue with them. We got an issue with our federal government that's corrupt and has been making our lives worse for the past decade. Common sense.
More Canadians come to America than tourists from any other country. Last year, Canadians made over 20 million visits to the U.S. and spent more than $20 billion here. But this year, many are not coming to America, as I saw firsthand on a recent trip to Vermont, right near the Canadian border. In a normal summer, the Kingdom Trails in Vermont's Northeast Kingdom, near the Quebec border, would be teeming with Canadian bikers. But Executive Director Abby Long says this season has been a rough ride.
We have seen a 50% decline in our Canadian members.
25 miles away at Hill Farmstead Brewery, business is off by a third.
We just had a large festival last weekend, and 50 or 60 of the ticket holders just did not come.
Last year, 20 million Canadians visited the U.S. That's over a quarter of all the tourists who come here. But in June, car crossings to America dropped by 33%. That's the 6th consecutive month of decline. Air travel has also plummeted.
And I have many U.S. friends, American friends, that I will not be seeing in person for a while because of this. But that's c'est la vie, as we say here in Quebec.
Jay Peak is a mountain resort just a few miles south of the border. In wintertime, typically half their season pass holders are Canadian. most of them French-speaking Quebecois. That's clear even in summertime.
The signage that we have here is mostly all bilingual.
General Manager Steve Wright has proof
I have the maple leaf here.
that the bonds here run deep.
My dad is Canadian.
Literally in your blood.
Big connection, not just the dollars and the cents, but the DNA.
Even so, as the ski season wound down here and it came time to renew, many longtime Canadian season pass holders said no.
We are 30 to 35% off.
And you're sure that this is overall their antipathy to what's coming out of the White House?
Well, yeah, as much as I guess you can be sure of anything. I called 100 households myself, Canadian households who had purchased season passes last year by this point, who have not yet purchased.
You called them
I
directly?
called them directly, personally. I got through to probably 70% of them. And to a household, they referred back to the 51st state narrative as being emblematic of the reason that they're not coming.
Bet you they're not Albertans.
Have also been hit.
Probably
We've
from
already
Quebec.
seen 30% of our Canadian golf groups cancel. We do 42 weeks worth of hockey tournaments. We're expecting that business to be off upwards of 40% by the end of the year.
In Quebec, Philippe Bachon's duty-free shop should be bustling this time of year.
But right now, it's very disappointing.
Bachon says Canadian business is down close to 50%.
Well, what do you think is going to happen if you're booing their national anthem? Like, Americans never retaliated that way. You never heard them booing "O Canada." Doesn't happen. But we booed their national anthem, which was a shame. What do you think is going to happen? They're realizing, oh, so our neighbors to the north, our cousins to the north, who we have nothing but love for, are literally attacking us. They're booing our anthem, something that means so much to Americans. What do you think is going to happen? Of course, they're going to boycott us back, at least some of them.
We did not lay off anybody, but we need to be careful in ordering and all that.
But smaller duty-free shops along the border are on the brink.
4 to 6 store are planning to. If it's going on, they will close by fall.
To close for good.
Yeah, after 30, 40 years of existing. We're here on the border with our little white flag, and it's not because of bad management that we're in this situation. It's because of politics.
Look, and I feel for business owners, especially you see people like that. Business owners I have great sympathy for. But this guy, he's from Quebec, and that is the province, factually, is the province that is the most hostile towards the United States. If your people are boycotting America, expect America to eventually catch on to it and boycott you back. And the thing is that the American dollar is stronger than the Canadian dollar. The American economy is 10 times bigger than the Canadian one. And there's 10 times the population, 9 to 10 times the population. So Canadians need to realize that just because you're feeling offended, or because you believe that I'm going to show them an elbows up or whatever else, facts don't care. And America is the #1 economy in the world by far. They're our closest ally, our biggest trading partner. If we go on an all-out trade war with them, in an economic and financial war, we're going to lose really quickly. It's the proverbial egg versus the rock. So again, I feel for that business owner, but I get why it's happening.
My family has owned property in Vermont all my life.
Good for
I
you.
went to ski in Vermont when I was like 3 years old. We hiked the long trail. I mean, it's so beautiful.
And yet her family has now resolved to sell their home there.
The process of selling this property
Why?
for my entire family
Why?
has been extremely difficult emotionally. It's almost like we have to mourn this moment.
But you don't have to sell the house. You don't have to. You can just be normal. You can just live your life. You don't have to be so offended that you have to sell a house and literally break family history. This one right here is an ad put up by the tourism authority in Quebec, trying to get Americans to stop boycotting Quebec, so that they get them back because they're feeling the pinch and all that. So they're basically trying to entice Americans to return to visit Canada and the Quebec area again.
Sorry, I don't speak French. I'm just visiting.
Well, then welcome to Canada's Eastern Townships. Where are you visiting from?
I'm American.
Ah, okay.
Come and hug it out in the Eastern Townships. All right, thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Special thanks to those of you who have donated to this project. It is much appreciated, and it helps me continue making videos. See you on the next one. Peace.